And as I said, we've got the lovely Norma here. Good morning, Norma. How are you?
Good morning, Charlie. Fine, thanks.
Fine. How was your weekend?
Very busy.
Very busy? Yeah, I was busy.
Yes, grandson's birthday.
All right. I had to go to a wedding last night, and it was a long wedding from 3:30 in the afternoon till 11 o'clock at night.
You wouldn't beat your best today then.
No, I do want to get up this morning. Anyway, where do you go for this morning?
Today, Charlie, I thought I'd speak about the post office in St Mary's. The St Mary's post office is one of the oldest in the state, and it was established on the 1st of October 1840. And that was only 30 years after the appointment of Australia's first postmaster, so we were quite early in the piece.
Yeah, it is one of the oldest.
Yes. Mr. William Morton was the first postmaster, and he received a commission of 20% of the postage collected. So he wasn't given away, it was just on commission. And considering there weren't very many people in the town at that time, I presume he had another form of employment as well. But for the establishment of the post office, the governor had approved that £7 be spent for the necessary stamps. Now that's not postage stamps as we know them, it would be the metal stamp, because there were no postage stamps at that time. Now that was just to stamp the letters to say that people had paid the postage. When the first 7 country post offices were opened, that included Parramatta and Penrith, who was all considered country in those days. They opened in 1828, and the mails were carried by coach from Parramatta each day out this way. And the mail coach ran twice a week between Parramatta and Penrith. By 1839, Mr. John Perry from Penrith, he had the contract for carrying the mail from Penrith to Bathurst and from Penrith to Sydney. So again, it would have been coach and horses. Anyway, by 1840, an office had opened here in St Mary's, but it was just like the front room of a house. It was the Hackett office.
In Eastern Creek like that, it closed down 3 or 4 years back, whatever.
It was along with that Federation Garden,
That's right,
it was. What had originally been an enemy. Where that post office was. Anyway, the government leased a couple of front rooms of one of the Hackett houses. There was a row of terraces round about where Hogsworth Cafe is now. There's a row of houses there. And of course the mail was still being delivered by coach. And there was a John Hilt he had a service running from Sydney, Parramatta, St Mary's and Penrith daily. 4-horse coaches with guards. And he also had a service from Parramatta for Windsor, and for all that he was paid the princely sum of £400, which would be $800 today's money. By 1862, the well-known Common coaches were delivering the mail between Parramatta and Penrith 6 times a week. So really better service than it is today. Mr. Edward Lincoln, that was a well-known name in St Mary's. He became a postmaster around that time. And also one of the later postmasters was Matthew Webb. He was also well known as an early tanner in the district. He had a tannery on the site of today's band club. And he received £30 per annum to conduct the post office. But he died in 1875 and his eldest daughter took over the management of the post office, assisted by her sister, and the inspector came out to see how things were going, and they actually gave Miss Jane Webb permission to carry on as the manager, which would have been a fairly big thing in those days, I think, because they didn't, they were a little bit more progressive than some other departments. Anyway, they decided around this time that they would also open a telegraph office and to send telegrams. And so permission was given for Miss Webb and her sister to carry on, and they would combine the post office with the telegraph office. And her salary by this time was £88 per annum. So that things were improving, but by this time she was getting, £3 of that was the commission on the stamps. And she was also provided with accommodation at the office, but it meant renting an extra couple of rooms from of the house. And around that time we also brought in money orders and the savings bank. So they were all conducted through the post office at that time. And by 1882, the number of letters posted weekly was a whole 415. But they only received 54 letters, so they weren't exactly overloaded with work. Telegrams seemed to be a more convenient way of sending messages, because they sent and received over 1,000 telegrams a year.
Okay, we'll go for a break.
Hi, I am Mary. And I am Norma. Together we represent the another program in Negro Arabic, right here on Wow 100.7 FM. Please join us every Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m.
Bonjour, hello, my name is Louise Prince, your hostess for the French program. I'll be inviting children and teachers of the local schools and playing some French music. Come and join us on the radio on Wow FM 100.7.
And that was lovely, Louise. Bonjour, Madame Louise. I hope you're listening. Okay, carry on where we left before, Norma.
Thank you, Charlie. By the early 1880s, it was decided that the town needed an official post office building. So the local member of Parliament, Thomas Smith from Penrith, made representations for the erection of the official building. And land was purchased from Mr. George Bennett for £75. And that land was on the Great Western Highway, approximately opposite where the band club is, slightly west of opposite the band club.
That's where the shoe shop is, or shoe
A little bit west of that. It was next to the Presbyterian Church, and the church owned the land then, but they hadn't actually built the church by 1880 it had just opened actually, with the frontage of 55 feet and a depth of 320 feet. And they had a bit of trouble with tenders and contractors and all, so it wasn't until 1883 that the building was actually opened. And then in 1900 extensive renovations were completed, and they had actually built another office for the post office on the front of the original building. Then because around that time there were only 157 families in the whole area, and that included down to Colleton, out to Erskine Park and Milo. So,
Gee, there was still spread,
yeah, 157 families. So in 1910, they opened a telephone exchange. That was in one of the back rooms there at the post office. And they continued there for many years. But they had the switchboard operators, the automatic exchange didn't come in until the 1900s. With the early telephones, very few people in the town had them, and last month I spoke to you about Dr. Day from St Mary's. He had telephone number too.
Of course, I need
So they continued there for many years until the new post office was built here in Queen Street, I think around the early 1960s. But it was a lovely old building, the post office, and it was demolished to make way for the building of the Great Western Highway.
All right.
The bricks from the facade were kept, and they were going to build tea rooms in South Creek Park and use the bricks from the facade, but obviously vandalism went on down there, and the buildings they'd moved on to South Creek Park was burnt down, and so the idea of the tea rooms was shelved and just didn't ever go ahead. But when the post office first moved out of the building, the St Mary's Community Arts Centre had been formed, and they moved in there and they operated there for several years, and the original Historical Society, which was formed in 1979, also had held meetings there courtesy of the arts group. And it was a shame to see it go because it was quite an attractive building. But of course, when the new post office opened here in Queen Street, that was going to be the be-all end-all, but it wasn't too long before they outgrew the site, and they've got the big mail sorting office now in College on Avenue, and the telephone exchange is at the other end of Queen Street.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Phillip Street, but that's the automatic exchange, of course.
Just things change, yeah.
They do.
So how long the post office has been in the same place? Since 1960?
Early 60s.
Early 60s.
63, I think.
It's nearly 40 years. Yeah.
It would be 40 years. We would still call it the new post office. Because in the early days, the mail was delivered on horseback or with horse and sulky, and then they graduated to push bikes. Telegram boys always rode around the town on push bikes.
We still got horsemen on push bikes though.
But then we ride the motorbikes these days.
They're getting lazy.
Things change, but I feel sorry for the early posties on their push bikes because they covered quite a large area.
So, like you said, families were spread in Lund Isle, same here. They used to get their mail delivered, or they used to come and pick the mail?
Well, I think the people in town would have picked their own mail up. They always had a contractor that would go to the outlying areas and deliver the mail, but of course they wouldn't have got the mail every day like they do now.
That's right, yeah. There's big cars on the highway, Norma. It's called wings, something like that.
Wings?
Four wings, yeah. What's going to happen to them?
Well, that's actually being discussed at the moment. It's owned by the GUAP. They've just changed their name again, Department of Planning and Infrastructure. And they're looking for someone, I think, to take it over. And maintain it and, lease it out for some community purpose because...
Take our radio station there. That's a good one.
Well, Penrith Council are looking into it at the moment of whether it would be feasible for them to take it over and use it for a community project.
But one says that there should be a helicopter service from there to the airport, remember?
Well, Bill Waterhouse bought it, and he had the helicopter service from there. In more recent times, there's been a few discussions on what it could be used for, and there was one group looked at it, using it for offices for a crematorium, of all things.
All right.
There was another plan to have a waste transfer station there. It would have looked similar to like a service station. Instead of petrol pumps, there were a row of waste bins and it would be taken off site to be processed, but that all fell through. So Historical Society would love it, but of course we haven't got the money. But we're quite concerned about the condition of the building, and I quite often, when I drive past, you'll see a window broken or something like this, and I ring the department concerned and report it, and they come out and board the window up. But it's such a beautiful home with the Peary in 1920.
That used to be the house of some time.
And we're just quite concerned that it will be a case of demolition by neglect. Because this is what happens with a lot of historic places.
That's right, yeah.
The department that takes it over says, well, we haven't got the money to maintain it, but it ends up, it just falls apart, and it just takes too much money to repair it then.
That's right, yeah.
Whereas that's quite a substantial home, and it's just the, I think if the windows were repaired and a coat of paint inside, you could be using it almost straight away.
That's right, yeah.
Beautiful big home.
Well, put a thing there for it.
Pardon?
Put a thing there for it.
Yes, well, council, they're in the process of getting a report on it to see what it can be used for. So
we'll go for a break, Norma, and we'll carry on. Okay, that was Jeff Ball with Tomorrow. To me, tomorrow never comes. It's only today. I don't know whether we're going to be here tomorrow or not. We're looking,
Well, I won't be here tomorrow. Busy elsewhere.
Anyway, that was Norma, the president of the St. Mary's District Historical Society, and we were talking about post offices and some of that things today. Thank you, Norma.
I'll see you again next
Catch up
month.
with you next month, and you have a surprise for me next month.
Yes, I have.
Thank you,
All
Norma.
right then.
Catch you later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.